Hello everybody, welcome to the Redmen TV. My name is Ben Kelly. This is the Liverpool Development Watch for March. Thanks very much for joining me. Let's start with the loanies as usual, and let's just start up in Rangers after the Old Firm derby yesterday, a game in which Ryan Kent scored. Unfortunately, a 2-1 loss for Steven Gerrard's Rangers. He was a bright spark though, and it was a really good performance for the side down to 10 men. They obviously had Alfredo Morelos sent off again, this 5th time this season. In a Rangers cert, and they were basically down a goal and down a man after half an hour. It must be moments like that that Steven Gerrard really tears his hair out, because obviously, you know, that's not playing for the team, is it? You know, if you're a goal down and then you elbow some fella and get yourself sent off at an Old Firm derby. I get that tensions are high, and obviously we'll get onto Ryan Kent in a minute as well after the winning goal for Celtic. But you know, the team has to work so much harder, and suddenly, you know, you're battling. But to be fair to them, they were actually very, very good in the second half. They really gave it a good go. They had a lot of the ball. Yeah, they came out and they probably deserved at least a point from the game, to be perfectly honest. Ryan Kent, that was a really good goal for him. You know, it was a really good piece of individual skill to take it past the defender and then slot it. Obviously, the keeper gets a touch on it, but it's a really good finish. And from there, actually, you know, Celtic had their chance from which they scored, but you know, it looked like it might have been Rangers who were the ones who were going to go on and win it, which would have been good. They had a couple of opportunities, but yeah, Kent was absolutely outstanding. Obviously, he also seemed to punch Scott Brown in the face. Good lad, good lad. Scott Brown is a dickhead and you know, a perpetrator, and he really stirs the shit in those games. And I was more than happy to see Ryan Kent floor Scott Brown rather in that situation. He might face retrospective action because he didn't get sent off. It didn't look like the referee had seen it, or either of the linesmen. So let's wait and see with that one. At time of recording, nothing's happened yet, but let's face it, he's probably going to get a ban. Probably worth it, given how wound up he was about, you know, maybe the fact that his team's just conceded. Scott Brown's probably in his ear, yeah, and he just lamps him. It's great. Fair play to you, mate. It's been a difficult month for Rangers on the whole, who now sit 13 points behind Celtic after the Old Firm result yesterday in the SPL. They failed to win a game in March, and they also got knocked out of the Scottish Cup by Aberdeen, so it's a test of Gerrard's resolve now. Obviously, he had quite a good start to life at Rangers. He's got to sort of learn, you know, really this is when you start to gain experience as a manager in, you know, trying to figure out what's not working, what do I need to change in order to get this bad run of results out of the way and make the team, you know, believe in themselves again. Obviously, I think yesterday will have been a big confidence boost for them, because even though it's always going to be difficult for them to lose an Old Firm, the performance in the second half, they'll take a lot of encouragement from, especially down to 10 men. You know, the SPL is going to split in the next few games. They've got 2 more games coming up against Hearts and Motherwell, and then the SPL splits for the final last 5 games of the season, and that's when they'll push on, and hopefully they can cement that runners-up spot. That probably means they'll be playing Europa League again next season. And yeah, look, it's been an up and down season so far for Steven Gerrard. Look, he's not going to win any trophies, but it's a long-term project, hopefully, and hopefully the fans sort of stick with him. He'll have the opportunity to obviously bring a bit more talent in again in the summer. I'd really be looking at Morelos now. He's a good player, but he's a liability, and I think these are the type of big decisions that Gerrard's going to have to make, not only at Rangers but throughout his managerial career, where, you know, if players like that are causing him a problem and they're getting sent off, and you know they're causing problems for the team, is it an opportunity, or is it a decision that he's going to have to make to move him on in the summer? We'll have to wait and see. Let's talk about Marco Grujic and Hertha Berlin then. He's having a great time in Germany, is Marco. He's had a really good stint of games, even though it's not quite been a great month for Hertha in terms of results. Marco's been talking about even potentially staying at Germany for longer, extending his stay there to further his development rather than playing a big part role in the Liverpool team next season. He said, if I could choose myself, I would stay with Hertha for another year, maybe even 2 years, to make a very good name for myself by improving all my qualities. Like, it's a player that just reeks of confidence, doesn't it? You know, he's a player enjoying his football, he's enjoying the minutes he's getting on the pitch, he's appreciating the opportunities that he's getting in a good league in the Bundesliga, and you know, and even though life isn't great for Hertha, I mean, it's looking like they're going to be safe from relegation, but you know, they've won just one of the last 5 games and lost the other 4. One of those was a friendly, to be fair, but overall he's still getting, from a personal point of view, debut, he's still getting the opportunities, and that's something he'll be really pleased with. So hopefully as the rest of the season picks on, Hertha Berlin's form picks up a little bit as well. Yeah, and they go into the end of the season on a bit of a high. It's looking like they're going to finish around mid-table. I've got no problem with him staying there for another season, to be perfectly honest, if he wants to. Now, Jurgen Klopp's probably going to bring in a couple of other midfielders in the summer. Competition is very, very high there in the middle of the park for Liverpool. It's pretty much, not the only area of the field for Liverpool that doesn't necessarily pick itself at the moment. Obviously, the back five does and the front three, but there's always quite a lot of debate over who's going to start in midfield. Grujic will have a lot of competition, and he probably would just prefer to be knowing where he stands with a manager at the moment. And if he going out to Hertha Berlin for another season, he's going to play week in, week out. I think that'll benefit him a lot more than being in or around a squad where he's inconsistently in the side. He's only playing cup games and bit part games. Yes, he'll be around better players at Liverpool, but I think he's at a stage in his career where that isn't necessarily what he needs. He just needs the minutes, so we'll have to wait and see. Harry Wilson at Derby then. There has admittedly been a bit of a drop-off in form for Harry Wilson. Regardless though, he's been nominated for the EFL Young Player of the Season award, which is a successful sign of a loan if I've ever seen one. He put in a better performance than of late versus Rotherham at the weekend, but he still didn't score or assist. He played the 90 though, and he was pretty good. It was a very comfortable win for Frank Lampard's side. There have been whispers of a potential Premier League loan from next season, and I can see this being a wise move, to be honest. Now that his form at Derby's dropped off, he needs to put in a consistent season of good performances for me to start to be considered, in Jurgen Klopp's plans long term. People at GeordieBootBoys.com, a Newcastle fan site, are fans of him and have actually published an article explaining why they would want to see him at Newcastle next season. And to be honest, I think that could be a really good place for him to go. They struggle going forward. They're probably not going to have Kennedy next season. They've got this Almiron who's just signed, and he seems to be transforming things for them. But he could be, Harry Wilson, another dimension to Newcastle's attack, going into next season. They're probably going to be safe, so it's going to be a good Premier League loan for him. I think Newcastle will see it on great business on their end too, because they'll have a good player who's eager to prove himself in the Premier League. He's hungry to play for Liverpool and under Jurgen Klopp, and I think it'll be a really good move for him. Derby in general still in the playoff hunt, 59 points with 8 games to play. Their form in March was miles better than in February. Remember last month I talked to you about they'd just been battered 4-0 away at Aston Villa, I think, when I filmed the last show. But this month they've won 2, drawn 2, but it could be that spell of losing games in February that could cost them towards the end of the season in regards to the playoffs. They've got Middlesbrough and Bristol City breathing down their neck. They 6-6. Bristol in particular, I think, are a point behind them with a game in hand. So at the moment, it's not really in Derby's hands whether or not they finish in the playoff places. Moving on to Loris Karius and Besiktas. Now, obviously, this is probably the biggest story so far, over the last month regarding the loanees, because Loris Karius is just having a torrid time at Besiktas, and I really do feel sorry for him. Let's get one thing clear. None of us will ever forget the events of Kiev. It was devastating what happened that night. But Loris Karius really is almost a shell of the man that he was prior to that game. He was always, while not the best goalkeeper in the league by any stretch, he was always quite a confident guy. He had quite an ego on him, which isn't always a bad thing as a footballer. And honestly, ever since then, he's made several mistakes with Besiktas. There seems to be problems with his pay. As of the 13th of March, reported by The Guardian, Besiktas owed him £1 million in wages and hadn't paid him for 4 months. And his confidence just looks shot, and it's just so sad to see. But the problem is his confidence isn't being held at all by the club itself. They're desperate to end the loan deal. Besiktas manager Senol Gunes has openly told the press that he's only being picked because he's the only option. He did say this about Karius' confidence, though. He said, Karius has gone a bit stagnant. Something is wrong with his electricity, motivation, enthusiasm for the game. And it just sounds like he has this mental block. It's so difficult. The mistake at Tranmere in pre-season as well may have been just as important as the Kiev ones in a way, because it was so important for him to come out and put in, it was only a pre-season game, but it was so important for him to come out and put in a really good performance there, and he spills another one which Tranmere scores off, and he must just be thinking about it, like, Like, we think about the title race a lot. Like, I would say I'm thinking about the title race like a strong 80% of my day. But Karius must just be thinking about Kiev and Tranmere like 95% of the time. It just, why did I do that? Why didn't I roll it to Robertson? Why have I, you know, and it's just this whole thing. I just feel so sorry for him. I don't know what the answer is. I hope he sorts himself out soon, but it's really difficult. And Liverpool, I think, have a long-term problem with him where they're going to have to try and sell him and move him on, because I don't think it's going to work out at Liverpool, particularly with Alisson being here. But who wants him at this point? There's so much like negative sort of agenda, that's not the word, it's like there's so much negative press around him, and that no top club is really going to come in. He's probably worth less than we paid for at this point. So it's a really difficult situation. It's really upsetting to see, you know, a top Premier League footballer at one point, you know, be in this state, really. At the end of the day, look, these guys are paid so much money, but they should be enjoying the football. It's a life that most of us would choose, to be playing football for a living and earning money, and that's, you know, that's what you do for your job. But he's just having a torrid time at the moment. I hope he picks himself up over the next month and sorts himself out. Another man recognised in the EFL end-of-season honours has been Herbie Kane at Doncaster Rovers. He's been put in the League One Team of the Season after a great season in the heart of Doncaster's midfield. But his season is potentially in danger after he returned to Melwood recently for treatment on a groin injury. It looks like he'll be out for 4 or 5 more weeks at the time recording. That was, you know, last week. You know, he picked up. It was reported he was going to miss 6 weeks. So I think it's looking like his season's over and done with. Which, trust me, Doncaster fans can't overstate how much of a loss that is to them. They're really disappointed. They really love him there. You know, I've seen like tweets, you know, like when something bad happens in the Liverpool fan base and our heads fall off, you know, like we draw a game or something like that. It's been like that level of, oh, well, that's the playoffs gone. You know, that's how integral he is to Doncaster at the moment. As I said last month, I think the next step now is a loan next season to the Championship, maybe even the Premier League if the club feel he's good enough. But then again, like Grujic, I suppose, if he's enjoying his football at Doncaster, they really like him. If they go up, that will be the best case scenario for Liverpool, because if they go up to the Championship and then we can loan him to Doncaster again in the Championship, then the fans know him. He already knows the manager and the players, and you know, it's a club that he's clearly enjoyed being a part of. You know, he's enjoying his time there, and that will be ideal. Whether or not Doncaster go up now with him injured is a different story, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Again, though, a really successful season for Herbie Kane at Doncaster. Over to Belgium then, and Tyrant Iwanimi at Mouscron. Not too much action for Mouscron as a club this month, so not too much to report on Iwanimi either. But he hasn't been quite producing the same numbers as I talked about in the last show, but he's still very much the main man for them. He has 7 goals in his last 8 league games. He's the main man there. There's a few games to go in the final few weeks of the Belgian season. Let's just hope that he can continue that good form up until the end of the season. Back to Scotland, and Liam Miller is still yet to start for Kilmarnock since arriving in January, but he's slowly making progress. Liam Miller is a young player. He scored his first ever competitive goal in football on March the 11th versus St Mirren. It was a winner in the Scottish Premiership, and he also registered an assist against Hamilton in their most recent league game. I think he's just slowly feeling his way into things, to be honest. He's a young player. He can't expect to be playing every week. He can't be expecting to start every week. I mean, it would have been good for him to have started a game by now, but I'm sure he's just grateful for the opportunity at this point to go out and experience something different. He's Canadian, obviously, so he's been in this country for a few years, and he's played very well for Liverpool under-18s, but I think he's just appreciated at the moment the opportunity to be around a different environment, different surroundings. You know, up in Scotland, it's a different quality of league, you know, so he'll find more opportunities, and I think he's doing quite well. Hopefully he gets it'd be nice for him to get a start between now and the end of the season, but you know, I wouldn't hold my breath. You know, Kilmarnock are playing well. You know, he's got to go and just try and prove himself in the minutes that he does get on the pitch, and I think he's been doing that so far. Over Yajari at Reading, he sustained a groin injury versus Wigan over the course of March and missed a few games. It was unfortunate because he was starting to build a bit of form and then lost momentum. He's been back in the side recently, started at the weekend. Started the game at the weekend, but again, he's right in the thick of another Championship relegation battle, which is unfortunate. He was at Sunderland last season, which was just dreadful for him. It was the last thing he needed, really, and obviously Sunderland were rock bottom and went down. This one, there's a little bit more fight to it, but it's such a stressful period, you know, for players if they're part of a relegation battle, and I think it probably wasn't something that Ejaria was hoping to experience twice. But then again, look, he's been dealt an opportunity to go and play at Reading are, you know, contrary to some belief, quite a big club. They've been a Premier League side over the last 10 years, and we're just, you know, it's one of them. He's getting minutes. It depends what he's prioritising, really. If he's just happy getting minutes, then I suppose he won't mind the situation that the club are in. But it would have just been nice, I suppose. He's got something to fight for. I mean, it probably might be better than him being, I know Brentford are kind of floating at the moment in the Championship. If he was there, you know, and you've got nothing to play for, you're on the beach with 10 games to go, then it doesn't quite mean as much. I suppose this way he's battling. Every game's competitive. Every game's a scrap to try and stay in the league, and you know, look, hopefully he can put in some good performances between now and the end of the season. On to the youth sides then, and old news I suppose, but Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain finally made a comeback to competitive football after playing against Derby County for Liverpool under-23s on March 8th. It's all got a bit quiet since on Oxlade-Chamberlain's return. He played 40 minutes in a 3-1 win for Neil Critchley's side. He kind of went straight to the dressing room afterwards. I think it was just reported that was just protocol, really. There was whispers, very small whispers of a potential muscle injury, but he's always going to have that when you come back from such a long period out on the sidelines. You're always going to get little niggles here and there. You know, it's just the way the human body works. But you know, hopefully soon, maybe by the time the next shows come on, he'll have been in contention for a place in Jurgen Klopp's side. The problem that he's had is that the under-23s haven't played since either. So he might have had a few more games under Neil Critchley, a few more minutes, but there hasn't been an opportunity to do that. Curtis Jones scored twice in that win versus Derby and was the difference as they bounced back from the Merseyside Derby loss, which I talked about on the last show. The next game is at home to Chelsea this weekend, so we may see Oxlade-Chamberlain again, but Klopp suggested that he's already in contention for first team action, so we may even see him against Southampton on Friday night. I'm not sure. There were talks that he might have been in the top squad for Tottenham, but obviously that didn't materialise, so we'll just have to wait and see. Just the 3 games left for the Unders. They can finish runners up in Premier League 2, but after the defeat to Everton in February, they can no longer win the league as they're 10 points behind with 3 games left. The title race, however, is very much on for the under-18s as they are chasing Derby County with 4 games to go. They recently won their version of the derby with Jack Burns scoring the winner versus Everton on Saturday just gone. They also progressed to the FA Youth Cup final after beating Watford 2-1 at Anfield in the semi. Paul Glatzel scored twice and the Reds battled through some very nervy periods of the game to get through to the final, which will be against Man City or West Brom, depending on who wins the semi-final, which is tonight at time of recording. So I imagine that by the time this goes out, we'll know who Liverpool's opponents will be in the FA Youth Cup final. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for the Development Watch for this month. Thanks very much for watching as always. Do all the usual subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter at bkelly776, like the video, leave me a comment down below if you want to, and I will see you next month on Liverpool Development Watch. Bye-bye.